Big addition.
What is up, everybody? TechChucker here, and today I've got a review for you of the NECA Toys Ultimate Alien Hunter LASERSHOT Predator. Now, I had an opportunity several times to be able to get this figure much earlier, but unfortunately I just didn't have the money at the time, and today I scored this guy at my target, so we lucked out to actually have this thing in hand, and we're going to go ahead and crack this thing open. One thing to note, this thing has an electronic LED targeting eye. How cool is that? So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and crack this thing open and take a closer look. All right, here he is out of the package, and he looks absolutely amazing. This thing is so cool. If you're not familiar, they're known as Yaucha. That's how I've always kind of pronounced it. It's probably wrong. But LASERSHOT is a bad blood. And if you don't recall, I reviewed the bad blood versus enforcer. So that's kind of their clan. But this LASERSHOT guy really never was a part of a clan. He's kind of a loner. He's kind of genetically and surgically modified himself to upgrade himself, and that's why he's got the electric eye. He replaced his eye because he made something better, etc., etc. A lot of that is on the back of the packaging. But this guy is a ruthless mercenary type of killer. He just, you know, he's just terrible. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, only because there's lots of reviews already out there and we're pretty late. But the things that I really want to point out really are the paint, which is absolutely amazing. You've got this just stellar paint job with the golds and kind of, I don't know, it's like a black wash was put all throughout to give it a little bit of dirtiness and tarnish. But then there's also little highlights on these parts that are sculpted a little bit more rough. And then there's more of an orangish gold on there to really make, and it's really evident here on the hips and this little sash area. But all of these little plastic pieces, these armor pieces, are mostly soft. So they're really not going to be brittle and break or anything, I hope, so long as these things age well. Now, the base body of the figure is pretty much the same body that we've seen for the last, I don't know, 20, 30 Predators, which is fine. The head sculpt is really awesome. It's just so cool. Look at all of the detail that's on that eye. And we'll go ahead and pull this battery piece out because we want to see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and activate that. Look at that. That is so cool. You've got the little 3-dot laser. Hopefully you guys can see that because it is so awesome looking. Probably shouldn't be pointing that right at the camera, but there's just this little button on the top of his head that turns it on and off. The biggest issue that I really do have is, one, the slot because of the plastic thing, and then there is a little screw, but it's very unnoticeable. I mean, they did paint the screw to kind of match that color, so not too big of a deal. But then the creme de la creme is this piece, his cannon, which is so cool. We'll go through that a little bit more in the articulation, but look at the sculpt on this. That is so cool. I'm really liking the barrel of this cannon here. It's almost like a translucent, it looks like, with the pink on that end. And then you've got this barrel, which also is looking really awesome. I just love the way that they've sculpted this. It all looks so good. There's so many little details throughout the figure. And then the paint job also is so amazing. You've got on his what is this, shin, the side of his calf, are these little blade pieces on his armor. I mean, that's just, wow, so cool. Make sure when you pull this thing out of the packaging that you hit this thing with plenty of heat for a while to get all of those joints nice and loose so that you don't break anything, because I had both the ankle and the hip and the shoulder were pretty much fused. So make sure that you are careful about that before you start moving this thing around. His Dreadlock hoses are kind of a brownish red, which is very different from what we've typically seen. Usually they're black, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but Normally they're black, and this is very different. It's going to stand out on your shelf, which is so cool. There's just so much detail. So really, really cool sculpt and paint on this figure. Let's go ahead and measure this guy up to see just how tall he is. And he's coming in at just about 8 inches, maybe a hair taller, not much. So unfortunately, I'm stupid and I don't have any of my other Predators here at home to do a comparison. But I will say at about 8 inches, and knowing that this is the same body mold, he's basically the same height as a regular Predator, but we'll go ahead and throw Deadpool in next to him. So you've got your standard Marvel Legend, and we'll throw in a Storm Collectible Scorpion next to him. That way then you can kind of see that. We've got the DC Collectibles Raphael, and then we've got the NECA Michelangelo. And for good measure, if we can get them all in here, let's scooch. Did I just say scooch? I did. And we will throw in the Mezco Punisher John Barenthal. Hopefully you can see that. And we'll just put him right in front. So scale-wise, we know that this is pretty much the exact size that almost all of your Predators are going to be, except for the big assassin Predator. So scale-wise, NECA did a great job. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation on this figure. For the most part, it is all what we've already seen before, but some of the armor does get in the way of that. His head is on a ball peg, and he's actually able to look up quite a bit. That's actually really quite nice. He's able to get his chin all the way down, which is great, and then he is able to look side to side. The dreads do kind of get in the way, but because they do bend and whatnot, you're not going to have too many issues. And then there is a really good amount of tilt on there. So you're not going to have any issues with that head. In the shoulders, this is where I've had the biggest issue, and I can't really get his arm to go up much more than that, which is a little disappointing, but I think it is this shoulder pad. So, you know, I like the way that this looks, so I'll take it. There is an upper bicep swivel, so he can swivel that arm, and rotating that arm around, you can get about, you know, that much range of motion, which isn't too bad. In the elbow, he has double jointed elbows. Again, like I said, heat all of these joints up, but he can go well over 90 degrees, which is really awesome. I like that. There is no forearm swivel, and that would be nice, but, you know, it is what it is. They didn't give us that. And then in this particular wrist, this one's a little bit different. He has a ball hinge in this particular wrist. So you do have a really good range of motion, but you do kind of need to manipulate that joint to be able to get it to go where you want. But he has good range of motion going down, and up is a little bit limited because there is this armor plate that's going to stop it. Over on this side, we have the standard hinge that we normally see, so it's just a hinge with a peg, and you know, he's able to get his hand down that much and only up that much because again there's another plate that's getting in the way. In the torso, he has the standard ball peg, and he's actually able to crunch forward a pretty decent amount. I'm actually pretty impressed with that. He's able to arch his back only about that far, which isn't too bad, and then he is able to swivel at that upper torso, and then there's a little bit, actually that's not too bad going that way. Not sure why it's not going on this way. Maybe his armor's getting in the way. Anyway, it's not too bad there. And then down in the waist, he has a waist swivel. It's another ball peg. And because of this little belt piece sash-like thing, he's not really able to get that much more crunch. But overall, that's about how much he's going to crunch, which is really quite good. And then the back arch, mine really doesn't go anywhere with that waist. But he is able to swivel at the waist and a tiny bit of movement side to side. Down in the hips, he's got T-jointed ball joints in his hips, and he's really only able to do the splits about that much because the armor is getting in the way. And I really don't want to go too far with it just because this piece here is going to catch on there, and I don't want to rip it because this is a very, very soft piece of plastic rubber. So just beware of that. He is able to kick forward only about this far. Again, the armor is getting in the way, but he is able to kick back quite a bit. I mean, that's a lot. So that is really nice. Kicking forward would have been nice if that had been a little better. He has a swivel at the hip, and that works pretty good. Mine keeps sticking, but it is working well. Double jointed knees, those work really well over 90 degrees, almost all the way in half. So with these big chunky legs, that's really nice. There is no shin swivel, but down at the ankle, he has that ball peg, and really only able to get his foot back that far, forward even less. I mean, that's pretty bad. And then he is able to swivel that foot again, hit these with heat. Mine were very, very stuck, especially on this side. And then there is a bit of an ankle rocker. It's not real good because of the way that this is sculpted. So just beware of that. But overall, I am going to say the articulation on this figure for such an armored up figure is really quite good. Okay, so LaserShot comes with a decent number of accessories. It's not an overwhelming number, but we'll start off right now with what I still consider this an accessory, even though it is attached and I don't believe you can take it off, but this is his shoulder cannon. And I wanted to show you some of the articulation that you can get out of this thing. So it's on a slider on his back. And so this can actually slide up and down if I can get mine to release. So it slides up and down, and the reason for that is so then it can clear his shoulders and go up and over. The one on his left shoulder is actually on a ball peg, and this thing will, once you heat it up, I had mine heated up, there we go, it articulates. You know, the range of motion isn't amazing, but it is pretty darn good. So it can go out and in a little bit, so that's kind of cool, and you can actually tilt it a little bit. Not sure why you'd tilt it, but you know, it works. This one on this side, I haven't found any joints. Now it looks like there's joints, but I don't believe there are any joints for that one to move, so just be aware of that. It does also turn to the side, but you got to clear his head and then move it this way, so then that might be why you would, I don't know. I don't know why you'd have it go in that direction, but you know, it works. He also comes with this helmet, which we will try and take a closer look at this. Just look at that. The detail on here, the paint job. NECA always does such a good job. And the fact that they paint and sculpt the inside of that helmet, that is so cool. I love it. Now, I don't believe that this eyepiece actually is see-through. I don't think that, yeah, it doesn't look like that's gonna, nope. But let's go ahead and throw this thing on. When I tried putting it on before, it wouldn't stay on. So let's see if it will stay on this time. There we go. Oh, and then I went and turned the light on. All right, so hopefully we can see that light shining through. Now, there isn't really a way of being able to have the helmet on and not have the eye light on, because that helmet is pressing on the button. So that is a bummer. I don't really care for that, because the only way that I can display it then is, oh, there we go. If you pull it just a little bit. But you got to be careful, otherwise you're going to drain your battery right away. He also comes with an alternate hand for his right hand. It's just a fist hand. Would have preferred, if we were going to only get one extra hand for that one, that instead of it being a fist hand, that it would have been a weapon holding hand, because then he could hold some of his other weapons. But one thing that is super cool is with this shoulder cannon is he gets this grappling hook with the what would be the tether sort of thing, and this is painted very nicely. It's a different color, which is nice. It's a bronze copper look, which really stands out very nicely from the rest of the figure, and the heads are actually swappable, so you get this one arrowhead. This is painted so nicely, and then the other head is more of a grappling hook sort of head. And this, I heated it up because it looks like there are joints for this to be able to move, but it doesn't actually move. So that is a bit of a bummer. I kind of wish that it was articulated, but you know, it is what it is. But both of these will fit right on the end, and you can choose what effect you want. This other end will just peg right into the thing here. It only goes one way. It is slotted. There we go. So just be careful when you push it in. Now, other people have mentioned, because of the absolute length of this, it does get a little bit heavy, and so it is going to droop. So just be aware of that when you are posing this on your shelf, that over time it's going to pull him forward. So you could put a little stand on it just to make sure that it doesn't go and fall down off of your shelf. But how cool is this? You could have this wrapping around another predator or a human character, something like that, and him about to bring it in. So that is such an awesome piece. The next accessory, and the one that I love probably the absolute most, is this alternate hand that goes on this hand on his left. And let's pull him out of the way. This thing, number one, is sculpted so well. I mean, there's so many little details throughout. Just look at this. It is articulated in each of the knuckles. That is amazing. That is so cool. I love it. I was looking at it and I was like, boy, this would be awesome if these were articulated. And sure enough, NECA did it. They articulated each of these. Even the thumb has one knuckle that is articulated. Heat this thing up. You do not want to break this, because this is probably the coolest accessory. And this thing just goes on this side. We'll go ahead and pop this off. All right, I had to heat up this hand quite a bit to be able to get this thing on. Let's just see what kind of range of motion we get with this thing. Now again, this ball hinge, you're gonna have to kind of manipulate it to get it to go into the position that you want to be able to actually get some movement. And you're not going to get a huge amount of range of motion with this, just because of the way that it is actually sculpted. There's a bit of a, I don't know, like a curve to it. So this part of the hand palm area is actually going to get in the way a little bit. Look at how cool this looks. This is just an amazing piece. I love it so much. This is probably my absolute favorite part of this figure. It is so cool. Next up is this piece, which is his wrist shield. This is just a gold little piece that's got this little gem-like piece in here. It's kind of a nice little effect that they gave with that. It's a little bit translucent. This will peg right into his forearm, just like so. There we go. That looks really good. That's the weapon when it's not activated. When it is activated, it is this little piece, which is pretty cool. It's a translucent pinkish plastic with, again, this replicated on there. We'll go ahead and show you what this looks like. And this is where it would have been nice if the actual forearms were articulated so that they could swivel, because you're kind of limited in the positions that you have to be able to put this in. So if this could swivel, you could actually change the angle of this, and that would look a little bit better so that he's actually able to use this to block and what have you. I have to say, this figure is an absolute must-have. I mean, for the $30 you pay, that you get so many awesome things. The sculpt and paint is amazing. The articulation's mostly there, and the accessories are pretty darn cool. So I have to say, if you're, on the fence, definitely get this figure. If you're only ever going to have one Predator figure in your collection, this could easily be that one figure that you get, because it is so cool. It's so unique from all of the rest of NECA's Predator figures that I think this could stand on its own as a really cool piece. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this figure. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and until next time, I will see you later.